Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about how to create tables, how to edit them, and also how to create table styles in AutoCAD. Let's get started. First of all, a table is what they call a compound object. It's a complicated object, and it contains data in rows and columns. And it's very similar to most spreadsheet applications, such as Excel. It can be created from an empty table. You can create an empty table, or you can start from a table style. You can also link your table to data created in a spreadsheet such as Microsoft Excel. So here's the command. Here's how you start it. The command if you just type it in the command bar is table. I don't believe there's a shortcut or a hotkey for this one. Or you can find it in the Home tab annotation panel. It looks like this right here. You can see the icon of a small table. Or in the Annotate tab, there's a complete panel for that. It's called the Tables panel. And here it is, so you can start a table right here. Once you've used the table command, you will get this dialog box. It's the Insert Table dialog box. That's that right here, Insert Table. And you can make a lot of selections for how your table is going to look and perform. The first one you can select is the table style. So if you've preset your style, that's where you would select it here. In the insert options, you can start with an empty table, or this is where, and this is a complicated feature that we're not going to cover in this course, but you can link in a data file such as Excel spreadsheet, and that's right here. This section down here is a preview, gives you a hint of what your table is going to look like. And Insert Table dialog box is where you're going to set how many columns and how many rows you have for your table. You can also set the specific column width and the row height for your table. So note, most people and most firms will create their tables or their schedules on the layout tabs. They'll create them on the sheet themselves. So if you use layout tabs, which most people do, create your table directly on the layout tab, and then the scale will be automatically 1:1. Let's talk about table styles. We've already learned about text styles, dimension styles, and multi-leader styles. And this is very similar, so it should be fairly familiar to you. The command you use to set a table style is, surprise, surprise, table style. As far as I know, there's not a shortcut for this one. It's not one that you use very often, all right? So a shortcut for it is not that useful. There's several ways to get to the table style command if you prefer to use the menus. One is on the Home tab annotation panel. And once you pull that down, you can see this one right here. It looks like a little table with a paintbrush. All right. Or if you click on this arrow and pull that down, there is a Manage Table Styles option. If you're in the Annotate tab and on the Tables panel, there is a tiny arrow at the bottom right that will take you directly to the Table Style command. Or if you pull this menu down, this is showing the current table style. Right now it's standard. All right. If you pull that down at the bottom, there is an option that says Manage Table Styles. Okay, so you've used any of the 5 or 6 options to enter the table style command. And therefore you get the table style dialog box. Here it says table style right there. This should look relatively familiar to you, as we've already covered the text styles, dimension styles, etc. So currently I only have the standard table style in my drawing, and here's a preview of what it looks like. And we can set it current, we can make a new style, or we can modify this style. So let's choose modify and see what happens. Once you have modified a style, this right here, we're in the modify table style standard, you are able to use many different controls to exactly select how you'd like your table to be displayed and its format. If you would like to select a table to create a style from, maybe you've taken a table, done some modifications, you're like, oh, I really like that one. I'd like to create a style. Here's where you would do that right here. Select a table to start from. This section here is, of course, your preview. And one important thing, once you get the cell style right here, so each individual square is called a cell. And by default, there are 3 styles of cells. You can make more, but there's generally 3. And one is the title, that's the overall title of your schedule. It's right here. Okay. For example, door schedule. All right. The next hierarchical level down would be the header. For example, in your door schedule, the headers might be the door number, door type, and door size, etc. So header right here. And finally, we have the general data cells, and this is where all your information is going to be located. So for our door style example, the door numbers would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The door types would be maybe A, B, and C. And the door sizes would list the individual size of the door. Each one of these styles of cells, title, header, and data, can have their own settings. For alignment, are they left, right, center, justified? For color, for text style, especially if you've already set those up, etc. All right, so you can set a lot of information, a lot of different settings for those particular styles of cells here in the table style dialog box. Once you've created a table, there are a number of ways you can edit it. The first and easiest one is grips. You can select a table and then move it or stretch it in the vertical and the horizontal direction using grips. Another one is called the Table Cell tab. So if you select your table and then single click, just click once on a cell, any cell, you'll enter what's called the Table Cell tab. Excuse me. It's right here, Table Cell tab. Okay, and you can edit the table as a whole. You can add and delete rows, insert and delete, and in columns, of course, you can merge and unmerge. You can match the properties from one cell to another. You can change the cell style and format. And you can insert some of these items, including linking to a data area. Okay. Another way to edit a table is to double click inside of a cell, and therefore you edit the content of the cell. You don't edit the format of the cell. That's a single click. But if you want to edit the content, what's inside of the cell, you double click it. And you'll enter a text editor function. You can type in whatever data you would like that cell to hold. So here we are in AutoCAD, and let's walk through some of the steps that we've just described. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a layout view. Here we go, layout number 1. And I'm going to add a table. So I've chosen to use the Annotate tab and table icon right here. In this Insert Table dialog box, you can set the table style, and you can launch the table style dialog right from here. You can start from an empty table, or if you already have an Excel file, for example, started, you can start your table from a data link. Here is your preview section to see what your table is going to look like. You can insert your table from a specific point, or you can specify a window like a rectangle. In general, you're going to want to specify an insertion point because you'll want to set your specific column and row widths and heights. Whereas if you specify the window, it will then scale your table to that window, including the text sizes. So here we have the first row, second row, all other row, cell styles. This is pretty standard to put the title on top in the first row, and then a header, and then the rest of the rows are data. If you need to, you can change these. Okay. So I have decided I want, let's see, I want less. 3 columns of data and 10 rows seems about good. Remember that I can always edit this later and add more or less. All right, so I'll hit OK. And on my sheet here, I will specify my insertion point for my table. Now, if you have already set up a whole title block and sheet layout, you can snap this to the borders of your sheet. I don't have that right now, so I'm just going to pick a point right there. So here's my table. And when I place the table, it automatically enters this title area or the title row. Okay, so I'm in the text editor for the title row, and I can go ahead and edit and enter my text. Title of my schedule. All right, there we go. Let's see, what happens if I hit return? Oh yes, I go to the next section. Remember that this row, number 2 here is my headings. And so I will type in my heading number 1. Okay. And then let's see, can I use my arrow keys? Yes, so I use my arrow keys to move around to the right and left. So heading number 2, for example, and heading number 3. Whoops, 3. All right, I'm going to hit return, and it should go to the next cell down. That's not the one I want. I'm going to go over, use my arrow keys, go over here. These are my data cells, and I can enter whatever I want. Okay. And I can move around the table by hitting return to go to the next cell down, or using my arrow keys to go to whichever cell I want. Let's see, I want this one over here. There we go. Okay. When I'm done entering my data, I can close the text editor using this checkbox right here. Or I can, this is what I usually do, just click out of the schedule or the table. So it is an item in your drawing, and we can click once on it to select it. So now I have selected my schedule. I can go see what it's like over here in the Properties palette. I have selected a table, and you can, as usual, change the layer, line type, etc. You can select a table style right here, You're not able to change the rows and columns right here in the Properties palette. Okay. You can change the overall width and height, and there are some other options down here. Since I've selected this table, I'm showing the grips. You can change the overall width of the table like this with this little arrow one right here. You can change the height. Oops, sorry, that's the break height. You can change the table height right here. Sorry, I selected a break height. You can add a table break, by the way, right there. You can change the table height right here. Or you can affect both of them width and height with this corner one right here. I think I'll do that right there. You can individually affect the rows and columns. Here is a stretch point for the columns. So the grips can be used to easily edit your table. So at this point, we've just clicked once on the table to select it as an object. Instead, we can double click in any particular cell if we'd like to add data. So I can double click in this cell right here. I entered the text editor and I can add data. So you can edit it in that direction. And then I'll click outside to be done. If instead you'd like to use the Table Cell tab to edit your tables format, you can single click and then one more time. Okay, right here. And now we're editing this cell. You can see we can insert rows and columns and delete them. We can match, etc. So a lot of different options here. All right, everybody, in this video, we showed you how to create a table, how to edit a table, and how to manage your table styles. Remember, this is all in support of your creation of schedules, and schedules are a way for you to communicate a large amount of information and data that may not be appropriate to write all over your plans and elevations, makes them complicated. So we pull that information out to a table format and put the schedules on your sheets. Thanks, everyone.